Artificial intelligence is already deeply embedded into everyday life and work. Everything from digital personal assistants to smart appliances, online shopping to factory robots are made possible with the help of AI. Now, whether we are aware of it or not, nearly all of us are using AI in one way or the another at home and at work. While some experts have expressed concern over the rise of AI and the lack of regulations around it, it's still clear that AI is shaping the future of work. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Inside podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, AI isn't just the future, it's the present. And now the metaverse has arrived, the AI revolution is gathering even more pace, opening up a new world of opportunities. But what does this look like and what does it mean for the future of work? To answer your question, we have Balbir Singh, CEO at Great Place to Work India. Hi, Balbir, how are you doing?
Hi Priya, hi, good afternoon. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Thanks, Balbir. It's a pleasure to have you with us on our podcast. So let's start. We already know Great Place to Work and its significance, but if you could give a brief introduction about the company and its specialization.
Yeah, definitely. A great place to work. We are a global brand. We operate in more than 100 countries globally, and I am responsible for the India business. And in India, just last year, we worked with more than 2,000 customers. And we specialize in workplace culture assessment. This is the employee sentiment and employee feedback. So we go to the employees of the organization, ask them to share their feedback. Then we look at some of the people practices that the organization has for the leadership team, for various initiatives that they run in the organization. And basis that we certify organizations as great place to work. Very proud of the work we do, and luckily we have been able to expand the number of customers that we work with, because our mission is to make India a great place to work for all. And the only way we can make India a great place to work for all is by working with more and more like-minded organizations and companies who want to participate with us and create a great workplace for their employees. And by for all, we mean it should be a consistent experience, irrespective of my age, my tenure in the organization, my gender, or my designation. So I think we are very, very proud of for all, and we take that very seriously. So when we work with organization, we make it a point that it's an organization that's consistently thriving for greatness across all the various demographics that they have. And yeah, that's a brief of what we do. And we have a very standard process all over the world. So it brings a lot of insights on how India is different from, let's say, Japan, and how Japan is different from, let's say, Mexico, and what is the overall sentiment of the world vis-a-vis India. So we can bring all of those insights onto the table and share it with our customers who would want to benchmark themselves, not just with India, but also with organizations globally. So that's what we do in very, very brief.
Great. And I really hope that India achieves that target soon, where every company that we have in India is a great place to work. And I think you have around like 20 years of experience in large scale operations management, client management. So we would want to know more about yourself, your journey till date. What is your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, I'm a techie by profession. I did my engineering, did many years of coding with Microsoft, Infosys, and then I went to do my MBA from IIM Calcutta. Uh, and then I did a lot of areas in operations consulting, strategic consulting before I joined Great Place to Work as head of technology and operations. And the good part about my experience that I've got the opportunity to work across many countries, be it USA, be it multiple countries in Europe, South Africa, Australia. So I've been very lucky. I've worked across almost all continents, apart from Antarctica. So that brings, global perspective on how people operate, because what we have to get done is very similar in each other, but the people perspective keeps changing, and that has been always my, approach is a people-centric organization where you get the best out of your people. And that has been my leadership philosophy ever since I started. I still remember, I'm a great believer of a producer leader. You cannot be a great leader unless you are a great producer. So if you are managing a team of people or leading, you have to lead from the front and you have to show that you are an expert in that area. So if I'm a developer, once I become a lead developer, I never left coding. So now that I'm leading an organization, I still do a lot of sales. I still do a lot of sales conversations myself. When I was leading technology and I was creating products for Great Place to Work, I was not only building technology but also making sure that this technology is sellable and just going meeting a lot of customers and making sure that the product that we are making is what the customers need and not what some technologist sitting in a room thinks that this is what the world needs. So that has always been my approach. Eat your own dog food basically, and make sure you're able to sell what you're creating. So that has really helped me in my journey from moving from just a technologist to a operations specialist to a COO and now a CEO. I've seen a great place to work. I have basically headed every department. I have worked in finance, I've worked in HR, I have managed some really big ticket consulting clients. So I have touched every part of our organization, and that provides really great insight for me into how different teams operate and what are the challenges that they face on the ground. And very recently, I'm also a strengths based leader. I really try to find the strengths of my people, what is the unique strength of each of those individual, and make sure that how can we leverage that strength. you know uh, Help more, judge less. So don't be judgmental. Everybody brings something special to the table. That's always been my belief. And if I'm not doing a great job at hiring, then it's up to me if I think I haven't hired the right person. But the attitude is to hire a person who will fit well and complement the skills that rest of the leaders are bringing to the table. So that has always helped. Of course, there have been, as a leader, you have to take decisions. I've taken a lot of wrong decisions in my career, but it's important to keep course correcting and don't be shy. You have to be vulnerable as a leader, and if you're vulnerable and if you think your team knows that you're honest and vulnerable, they will support you, they will back you up. And that honesty, that vulnerability has really helped me to come to where I am right now.
Great, quite an impressive journey, I must say, Balbir, and thank you for sharing that, and of course sharing your philosophical ideas in terms of how leadership should be and what is the kind of leadership you follow. Now, moving ahead, I think when it comes to primary goals, companies usually think of improving customer experience, making better products, and achieving revenue goals. But they tend to forget one of the essential things that fuel the entire program: employees. If your employees are
Hmm.
not happy and satisfied, then your company will eventually get ruined. Now, we have also read about the Great Depression, and now we are experiencing the Great Resignation in the corporate world. And according to one of recent Microsoft's research report, around 52% of Gen Z and millennials are likely to consider changing employers this year. And one
Hmm.
reason behind that is they are facing poor employee experience at their current organizations. Now, while we're talking about technological developments and integrations and its rapidly changing pace, how do you think technology can enhance employee experience?
Yeah, so let me just quickly share a thought that I am a great proponent of, and I believe in that when I say that. For me, anything great starts with leadership. Leaders shape experience, experience shapes culture, and culture drives performance. People have been saying, to have a great culture, to have a great experience for your employees, and then that drives performance. It's the other way around. It's the experiences that we create for our employees. Basically, that creates a culture that we want in our organization. And that culture drives performance. And if you're able to create those experiences for your employees, it doesn't matter whether they're Gen Z and or they're millennial. Of course, they come with their own mindset, and Gen Z and millennial, putting them in the same bucket might not be the best approach because they're very different from what they expect. Like when Gen Z expects involvement in decision making. If you see what is the number one thing that they want from a workplace, Gen Zs are folks who are, in their 30s, are probably early 40s, they're becoming parents now. They want involvement in decision making. They just don't want to go by what the leaders are saying and just go by it. And they're also sandwiched in between because they also have to manage their own teams, right? Whereas millennials, on the other hand, they are what they are. Like what you see is what you get. I remember when I started working for the first time. I went to my first job. My dad told me, "Balbir, this is how you have to behave at workplace. You can't be like this at workplace. The way you are at home." But with millennials, that's not how it is. They are at workplace the way they are at home. So you have to accept them the way they are. And once you're able to accept them the way they are, they have a point of view, it works well. So that's where you have to begin during the induction and during the welcoming. Now, coming, of course, there are a lot of other points that I can talk about, but coming to the impact of technology, is that correct, Priya? On some of this,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
See what you can do as a leader. When you say it's your job to create experiences and then experience creates culture, it's your job to appreciate who brings what to the table. As I told about my strength-based leadership, millennials are digital natives. They are born with technology. They got mobile phones in their hands. If they're 20 to 23 now, they got their mobile phones at the age of two. So they are digital natives. What we have to understand as leaders that they are more advanced in technology than we are. Just because I have 22 years of experience does not mean that I know more than that person. He is born with the phone. So it's important to involve this millennials for this thought process. Anything that you want to do with technology, involve them, make them involved, make them feel involved. You know, so instead of technology becoming a great divide between the millennials and the Gen Z and then the Gen X, let it become a adhesive force where you have to involve them where they know more. Second thing, what you have to do in as a leader is you have to keep investing on technology. You can't shy away from it. You have to increase the, we can go back to banking. Fintech has totally changed the way we bank. But also, if you see edtech, for a 4 years back, all of us thought that there will be no more schools and we will all do all our learning online. But we realize we need a something in between. Edtech is good. We need those, virtual learning, but people want to go back to the classroom. Even the corporates are going back to not just e-learning modules, but having those instructor-led 25 batch kind of a in-person learning, because the learning that happens when you are physically present is very different from just attending a virtual classroom. So the word learning is very different. So you have to have a mix. So like we had this learning. Similarly, when it comes to technology implementing HR or people workforce practices for organizations, we started with something very simple: chatbot for answering your queries, how many leaves do I have pending, and things like that. But now, very important aspect of any organization is the human touch. You can't let go of the human touch. You can adopt technology, and but you have to make sure there is human touch available where it is required. I really want to that warmth that can only be provided by human beings, but not by AI. There is no. It's the reason that after COVID, a lot of the organizations have counselors and psychological services that they provide. They were skyrocketed because teams have started working in silos. They don't connect with each other outside of the team's call. So how do we bring the teams together so that we can increase productivity? Priya, after COVID, there was an increase in productivity of teams because everybody found their mojo that they're working so. But after about 2 years, it started going down. Now organizations are trying to get people back to work. Hybrid is good option, but you can't have full-time work from home. So they want to get at least 50 to 70% of their people back to work. Even some of the big IT companies that are talking about artificial intelligence, artificial generative intelligence, even they want their engineers to sit in office and do that work. So human beings in terms of critical thinking will always be ahead of some of these things, and is the human warmth that makes a great workplace and that makes people stay apart from a great work or great job.
Yeah, completely agree. I think technology is such a thing that, of course, you cannot escape. But alongside, you also need human warmth and connection, like you just said. So I think we need a collaboration of these two things effectively in order to shape future organization and leadership, which in turn will enhance the employee experience. Just because you become a leader in an organization doesn't mean that a floor won't drop out around you. That is what you as a leader have been chosen to handle. In fact, it is a quest if you accept it. There are some leadership trends that leaders always have to face. But with the right tact and skill, you can do a strong course and come out of it on top. Now, I think there are some leadership trends that are shaping around with more tech integration. So we would want to know what are those trends and if any of those trends you are integrating into your leadership strategy.
Of course, there are multiple trends that are happening, and as a leader, I also, and being a technologist myself, there are few things that I have to do for myself is that I cannot be lost or Alice in the Wonderland, not being aware like what's happening in the technology landscape. So I have to keep learning, keep listening to the right podcasts, what's happening in the space. Second, I think as a leader, I have to identify those great movers and shakers in the organization who will take us, lead us in the this adoption of technology. That's where we identify these millennial leaders and providing your organization with the right kind of skills and tools. What's the biggest worry that people have? Will I get laid off, because of technology? Or will I lose my job because of technology? I'm not saying no. There will be some layoffs that will happen. Every few years there's something new that is coming, that is on the rise. And when we went from brick and mortar stores to e-commerce, there was a lot of worry that brick and mortar stores people will lose jobs, but then they reinvented themselves. Now all the big brick and mortar stores are also doing e-commerce, right? Similarly, businesses evolve depending on what the change is happening. And as human beings, we are not just great in critical thinking, but we are also masters of creating more work. The moment we know this work is being done by AI or machines, we will figure out more work for ourselves. It's like a space on the hard disk. I can give you 500 GB hard disk, you will fill it up. I can give you a 1 terabyte hard disk, you will fill that up also. This is never enough. So when we have created like AI, AGI, we just keep creating, we find different ways of keeping ourselves engaged. There will be some job losses definitely, but temporarily, but we will find more opportunities to create. So as a leader, what is your job? You have to be loyal. You can't tell your people not to upgrade, because if they don't upgrade themselves with the latest technology, they might end up losing jobs. And sometimes as a leader, it is not even in your hand, because there is so much pressure from the shareholders, or the stock is not performing well. You have to say goodbye to a few people that you do not want to, because that's how the what the market demands. Second is, you have to see, are you staying ahead of the curve yourself, and are you understanding the competition well, and how the technology is impacting, because which are the jobs that got impacted first, fintech and all of this. But if I'm in manufacturing, how is technology going to impact? I have to be ahead of the curve and understand the patterns that are coming up in the developed countries, and then develop and bring those in India before others do, and so that we have the right skill set. One thing you cannot do as a leader, and I have heard many people say that, and probably that's, I have both. There was a saying that you can bring a horse to the well, but you can't make him drink the water. But as a leader, sometimes you have to make that horse drink water also. Just bringing them to the well, just by having great e-learning courses, or signing up with great technology tools might not be enough. You have to make your people use those, adopt those, and you have to measure adaptability of those tools, and what is the percentage of people who are going through those courses, and make that. So you have to make the horse drink the water also. As a leader, you have to do that sometimes. And yeah, I think that's how you adopt technology also.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of comes into picture when we're talking about tech integration at workplaces. And speaking about artificial intelligence, I think there are two things: automation and artificial intelligence. And I think there's some confusion around what automation and automation looks like in today's business. One of the first images most people have in their heads is some kind of a robot maneuvering around a warehouse. This is definitely one aspect of automation that has proven especially popular within the manufacturing industry. But many different shapes and forms of automation and artificial intelligence can be found in any business from any industry. This increase in AI and automation throws up several positives and negatives. And I think it's up to organization as to how they can leverage these in terms of forward thinking techs. I want to understand from you, since we're talking about workplace and the impact of technology, how do you think artificial intelligence and automation is shaping the entire workplace culture?
Yeah. Yeah, I think as I said, if I'm adopting technology at my workplace, be it for automating some smaller tasks that done by human beings, or be it for replacing the entire department with the use of, smart robots. So there's no human being involved, who are just someone is just monitoring. As an organization, what is important and how it is going to hit is that there's hyper personalization that you will have to do. Is that n equal to 1? So we used to do assessment of our employees, who is a doer, who is a driver, and things like. I think we have to do a similar assessment on technology for all our employees to see where are the strengths that are lying. So Priya, can you just repeat the second part of the question for me, so that I think I lost my thought in between.
Yeah, it was about how artificial intelligence and automation is shaping the workplace environment
Shaking.
and culture. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think to begin with, any change brings anxiety. Okay, so that's the thing with artificial intelligence and automation. If you were to see Google Trends last year when AI came for the first time, people were just everybody, even some of the big, analysts were doing, which were the first jobs that will get replaced by automation. Okay,
Right.
and right, so people were just scared. There's a lot of anxiety. Then they say, oh, this is a job, or if I'm a tester, I know there is automated testing, my job will get replaced first. But if I'm now, even you can use chat gpt to write a good piece of code, but again, you are a coder, you are worried. But what we have to do is, so there are tons of lists available, everybody publish which jobs will get replaced easier, and where should human beings move. And 3 years back, say anything that is related to art will stay with human beings. But even now, there are great art pieces created by AI, which you can't even realize that is AI created art piece and a video. So that's the biggest worry, and we can talk about that later. Authenticity of information and the mass misuse of AI. But so first is anxiety, and you're worried that you're going to lose your job, and you start searching which are the jobs that are still protected, or can make me safe in my organization. So that's one. First is fear. Second is, now, okay, now I have anxiety. What is it I need to do? Then you start building skills that you can acquire to stay in the job. Now, what are those skills? Let's say if you're a banking professional, fintech, there are some things that only you probably. How do you assess a risk, for a mid-level transaction loan that you have to dispatch? Of course, there's a rules engine, but there is something that you only can understand when you go and meet that person and say, there's an intent, and there's a capability. So the person has an intent to pay, capability is something we can always assess, and how the business does. So as human beings, we have to keep moving higher on the value chain. As two technologies become more advanced, we need even more advanced human critical thinking to win over that technology and say, what is that aspect of technology that is not provided by technology and I can do as my. And then all the automation is done by human beings only. So what we can do, there will be job losses, but you have to, so after fear, you have to prepare yourself. Once you prepare yourself, you say, how do I optimize my learning? Then you optimize, do right kind of certification courses that that make you, even if you were to lose job, you are someone who is fungible and can be used across various other functions. And the last is, if you have once you have built expertise, it is time to reinvent yourself. If you are someone who cannot unlearn and relearn in this age of technology, you are at a big disadvantage. So it doesn't matter whether you have 15 years of experience or 25 years of experience, you have to unlearn and relearn and keep adapting to technology. So that's how it is going to be, for good or for worse.
Right, right. I think, Balbir, you mentioned about, fear and anxiety, and I think those can be considered as primary challenges when we talk about adopting any technology. But apart from that, are there any other challenges that probably come in the way of adopting these technologies, and what can leaders do about it? I think most of the time I've heard is about
Yeah.
reskilling and upskilling their employees. But apart from that, what are some things that you would like to suggest or advise leaders across the organizations?
Yeah, I think if there is something that leaders can do, I think leaders have to be more empathetic, okay, during these times, for to their employees. So if somebody is fear, so you can't be saying, pushing of course it depends on your leadership style, but you have to, if there's something that you have to practice more than any time else, is empathy. Second is, you have to understand that how do you work on the critical thinking skills, how do you ask your employees to work on their critical thinking skills, and you as a leader have to lead from the front. And once you think there are enough technologies available, people know what to learn, they are part of an industry which is going a tectonic shift. then what you need to do is be very, very honest with your people. If there are changes that are going to happen, and what is a road that you say within 6 months I want to optimize 20% of my workforce, and this is are the skills that you need to acquire for the future growth of the organization. So you have to be very honest, and for a future workforce, these are the three skills that we need in this organization. These are the people, this is a critical thinking ability that we need. You have to clearly lay out that roadmap for your organization, because we have been talking about VUCA world, vulnerable, and it's very vulnerable at right now. So as a leader, you have to be authentic, and once you're authentic, people will respect what you bring, for what who you are, and then either create their own roadmaps or figure out, and figure out their own trajectory. Uh, but you can't go and save jobs for people. What you can do is, this is what I will need in the next 3 months, and please upskill yourself. But keep human warmth, empathy at the center. That's important.
Right, right. I think yeah, that definitely makes sense. And when we're talking about technology, I think we recognize that cutting edge technology trends are far from just mere passing fads. They play a very vital role in remodeling the future of work. And by harnessing and integrating these advancements, I think businesses can gain an upper hand in today's competitive market. So, having said that, one last question for you, Balbir. What do you think are some of the future trends in this digital transformation area that can impact workplaces in the future?
Yeah. See, I think very first thing, if you can do, if you're reaching a highly technical organization, you have to create a culture of innovation. You have to invest more in R&D. You have to pay premium for some of these things. Okay, you cannot be working in a big technology industry if you are not creating a culture, and you have to really, really push your people to innovate. Innovation is not a job of only the R&D. Innovation has to happen at every level in the organization, so that keeps you ahead of your business. And then you don't have to lose jobs. Actually, you can create jobs within your organization, because you are a leader, you are an innovator, and everybody is going to follow you. Building a culture of innovation in these critical times is very, very, very key. Second is, and digital disruption will keep happening, but you have to think, how do you do digital collaboration in your organization? Provide flexibility. Provide, if I need to do something to upskill myself, can I have a break? Can I take a 1 week or a 2 week break from work? Provide that flexibility to your people, so that apart from being, so they can collaborate better using digital and technology. This flexibility really helps. And yeah, what can you repeat your question, Priya? So that I just wanted to do that
Yeah,
again.
so the question was like, what are some trends that you
Yeah,
like
trends.
in the digital transformation area? Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think trends, if I were to go with what we have seen, in India, is we started with e-commerce, then fintech. Next is definitely we're talking about smart cities. So there are a lot of smart cities coming up in India. That's a great employment opportunity for India. But the biggest trend that we will have is quantum computing, the supercomputers, and the kind of energy that is required by these chat GPTs of the world. Like, I was reading somewhere, a query that you fire on a Google search and a query that you fire on a chat GPT requires 17 times more energy. So how do you optimize all of this? AI, AGI tools is number one. It's not. And second is, you have to find practical use cases. Just creating a chatbot is not. What are the practical use cases that I have in the field of manufacturing, in the field of road safety, in the field of, like, automatic cars are still very far away in India, because road safety is a bigger concern. So I think on all of this, quantum computing will play a big role. Second is cyber security, and India is on the verge of implementing its own DPDPA. So we have a need of many cyber security experts in India. We have a few, but we do not have many. Every organization will need cyber security experts. Will need legal folks to understand cyber security. It's not just a technology, but also the legalese that is required to manage cyber security, and the terms and the NDAs that we sign. So cyber security is another big trend, especially for India, because we are late in the curve from rest of the world there. And after quantum computing and cybersecurity, I think the third biggest trend, I think, is how do you make bring the human back into human resources. We talk about this lot of these tools and bots, but I think more and more employees want to have those personal one-on-one connect with the people and culture team, with the HR, with the managers. So if there can be more, if we can work on initiatives that bring that personal touch back into how we operate HR, and that's very close to what we do at Great Place to Work. And I'll just tell you, as a leader, if you can be very, very competent, you can be highly competent. But if you are not an authentic and you are not able to make that personal connect with your reportees, you will not be treated as a great leader. A leader is a great leader who is able to build authentic connections and then knows where the organization is going or knows in which direction the business is going, is able to read ahead of others. And third is a competency. So for a leader, the biggest skill that you can acquire is building authentic connections before you build competency. And the last one is for any organization is that we have to really focus on the well-being of our employees and all of this anxiety. And our research has shown very, very clearly that organizations that are able to create fun places to work for their employees are able to do twice the innovation as others. So it's not that they are very great innovative organizers, but they are able to have and the well-being index of those organizations is 2.2 times than the rest of the other. Retention is about 2.5x more than. So you have to create a fun place to work where people are motivated to come and give their best. And all of this sits with the manager and the people and culture team, people managers and the HR team. So there are people who will do quantum computing. There are people who will do all of these technologies, but then there is someone who has to keep all of this together, and that's the role that the leaders have to play.
Right, yeah, completely agree with you. And I think the continued implementation of automation and AI in today's workplace will provide more greater benefits for businesses as well as employees. And I think it will come with its drawbacks as well. But I think leaders must emphasize its leadership practices and more about their leadership style. I think it's time for them to shift to a more flatter culture with more empathetic and flexible leadership practices. It can help organization build internal communication for the employees and boost their morale as well. When your employees are happy or their experiences are good, and that's what probably boosts innovations at the organization, and we might see more tech developments in India. Well, thank you so much, Balbir. It was a pleasure having you with us on our podcast, and we gain more insights around the impact of AI in workplaces and what leadership and leaders can do about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is for our listeners. Stay tuned for our
Yeah.
upcoming podcast, and you can view and listen all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.